Hey everyone, welcome back to another deep dive. And today we are talking all about that wallet.
Yeah.
And specifically episode 283 with Antoinette Blake.
Yeah, this is a great episode, and I think a lot of our listeners will get a lot out of it.
I know that the About That Wallet podcast really is aimed at helping the sandwich generation. You know, those folks out there taking care of kids and aging parents at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. Like trying to build those good financial habits.
Well, and so that's part of what makes Antoinette's story so interesting is she has this deep background in tech, but then her parenting style is kind of surprisingly grounded.
Right. Well, she spent over 20 years at IBM.
Oh, wow.
So she really saw firsthand just the rise of personal computers.
That's incredible. Yeah. So, she's a tech veteran, but her sons grew up before smartphones were everywhere. And she even talks about how she introduced her toddler to computers using key banger games.
Oh, yeah.
No tablets, no apps, just
hitting those keys.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Old-fashioned keyboard smashing.
Which is so interesting because I feel like today it's more like put the kid in front of the screen and you walk away.
Right.
And she was really there with them, engaging, making it a shared experience.
I think that's super interesting. And I love that she talks about that because it really seems to have shaped how her sons view technology.
Right.
Like as they got older, they weren't just glued to their devices 24/7.
Yeah, she really prioritized those real-world experiences.
Right. Family time travel, all that good stuff.
Yeah, it makes you think maybe we've overcomplicated things with all the screens now.
Yeah, it really does. But I think things get a little bit more complex when you consider that Antoinette's eldest son has special needs.
That's right. And he's facing some intellectual disabilities stemming from when he was a premature baby.
Right. And her perspective on this is so interesting. She says that people with disabilities, they kind of have a different kind of intelligence because they're navigating this parallel world.
Yeah, they're adapting to their own reality and everyone else's.
That's a really great way to put it.
Yeah, but then think about the anxieties that come with protecting a child in an increasingly digital world when they might be more vulnerable online.
Antoinette's very open about that fear. She talks about scammers, hackers, anyone who might target individuals who maybe have difficulty navigating the digital world.
Right, and that's got to be a constant worry.
It is a constant worry. And she even talks about how she checks her son's emails and messages pretty regularly.
Yeah.
Which some might see as overprotective.
Yeah, you can understand it.
Yeah, you can totally understand why she does that.
Absolutely. And it highlights the importance of not just monitoring, but equipping your loved ones with that knowledge to stay safe online.
Right. And she does test runs with them.
Yeah.
She shows them examples of suspicious messages.
Right.
And really stresses that if anything seems off, he needs to call her.
Yeah.
So she's juggling this digital age and its challenges while also being right in the thick of that sandwich generation experience.
Right, because remember, she cared for her grandmother for 16 years, and then her mother-in-law...
That's a long time.
It's serious dedication.
Yeah, and it wasn't without sacrifice. She even talks about how they bought a much larger house, like a McMansion.
Right.
Almost to accommodate her grandmother as she aged.
Which is incredible.
Right, and then she also talks about how she missed out on these huge tax write-offs.
Yeah.
That were available for caregivers just because she didn't know about them at the time.
Right, which is so common.
It is. It really is. And it makes you think about the whole premise of About That Wallet, which is to empower people with the knowledge they need.
Exactly.
And especially back then, this was before there were any programs to pay family members to care for elderly relatives.
Right. It could have made such a difference for her.
Oh, absolutely. And even without those resources, her resilience and her dedication to family is remarkable.
It really is.
And it's so clear that her experiences as a caregiver have really shaped her whole outlook on life.
Yeah.
She has this motto, I wake up looking up, everything else is gravy, baby.
That's a good one.
I know it is.
It's so positive.
It's so catchy, and I love that. And she also mentions the loss of her sister at a young age.
Right.
And you can tell that that has impacted her as well.
Yeah, it seems like it's given her a deeper appreciation for life and a real desire to make the most of it.
And I think that leads really nicely into another theme that comes out in the conversation, which is the power of giving back.
Oh, she's so big on that.
She really emphasizes spreading positivity and making others feel good. And it's clear that her definition of wealth and success goes way beyond, just financial gain.
Yeah, for sure. She's got her own podcast, Boomers and Beyond, where she explores these topics as well.
Oh, that's great. And I love this quote from her. She says, if we could just give back the positive, how much better everybody would be feeling.
It's simple, but it's so true.
It really is, and it makes you think. But of course, no conversation about finances would be complete without talking about money mistakes.
Right.
And Antoinette is very candid about her biggest regret, which is credit card debt.
It's something we hear a lot.
We do. It's so common. But coming from someone with her background, it really underscores just how easy it is to fall into that trap.
Yeah, for sure.
She even jokes that she wants to start a podcast just dedicated to people's worst money mistakes.
Oh, that's a good idea.
I think it would be very popular.
It would be a hit.
But let's not end on that note. I want to end on a happier note because Antoinette actually wraps up the interview by sharing her favorite comfort food to cook.
Oh, yeah. What is it?
Kale and black-eyed peas or navy beans in the crock pot.
It just sounds so comforting.
It does. It's practical. It's down to earth.
Yeah.
A little bit of Southern charm.
It seems so her.
It really does.
Yeah, it's that perfect blend of practicality and positivity that makes her story so relatable.
Exactly. And so I want to hear from you what stands out to you so far.
Yeah, what are you thinking about? What has resonated with you?
What are your takeaways?
We'll come back to these questions after a quick break and dive a little deeper. It's so interesting how one person's story can make you think about so many things.
I know it's true. And Antoinette's journey really is such a good reminder that there's no one right way to do things. Especially when it comes to technology and family life.
It really is all about finding what works for you and realizing that everything's always changing.
Right.
I mean, just look at how much technology has changed even in the last few years. It's crazy.
Yeah, so that's why it's so important to have these conversations with our family and loved ones about how tech is influencing them.
Definitely. And to be willing to change and adapt as we go.
Antoinette's story is a good example of that. She was really comfortable with computers because of her career at IBM.
Right.
But then as technology changed and there were new risks, she had to learn new things to protect her son.
Yeah, it's a constant learning curve.
It really is. It's like they say, the only constant is change, right?
Exactly. And especially in the digital world these days.
So that's why it's even more important to have good resources to help us figure all this out.
Oh, for sure. Things that help us navigate these uncharted waters. Podcasts, exactly.
But in the midst of all this talk about technology and finances, we can't forget about self-care.
Oh, that's so important. I love her motto about waking up, looking up.
It is such a good reminder.
Yeah. Taking care of ourselves is the best thing we can do.
Absolutely.
It's not selfish at all.
Not at all.
It helps us show up for everyone else,
That's so true. And speaking of showing up, I love how she talked about the importance of giving back and being positive.
Yeah. It's easy to get caught up in all the negative stuff.
It really is.
Yeah.
But if we can choose to focus on the good and just try to brighten someone's day, it can make such a difference.
Yeah, even small acts of kindness.
Right, and that brings us back to her definition of wealth, which is so much more than money.
Yeah.
It's about feeling good and having your health and giving back to others.
Exactly, a more holistic perspective.
It really is.
Yeah, so before we wrap up, I want to ask you a question.
Yep.
What's one small act of kindness that you can do today that, is inspired by Antoinette's story?
Yeah, I love that question.
It could be anything like complimenting a stranger, donating to a cause you care about.
Just take a minute and think about how you can spread a little positivity.
Because as Antoinette says, it's all about the give back.
Wow. We really covered a lot talking about Antoinette's story.
Yeah, so much.
I keep thinking back to what she said about raising her kids. Those early days of computers.
Yeah, with those key banger games.
Right? It's so wild to think about how different things were then.
It is, yeah. It really highlights how much technology's changed.
It also makes you realize that some things about parenting never change.
Like being there for your kids and, really engaging with them.
Being present for their experiences.
Exactly. And encouraging those real-world connections.
Those things are always important.
Absolutely, no matter what the technology is like.
Yeah, exactly. And with technology changing so fast, it's we have to remember to keep that human connection at the center of it all.
Definitely. We can use the tools and the resources, but we can't forget about face-to-face interactions.
Absolutely. And it's not just about tech, though, right? Antoinette's story is full of financial lessons, too.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It reminds us that we have to be proactive about our finances.
We need to stay informed, plan for the future.
Especially when it comes to caregiving.
Right, the sandwich generation has so much to think about.
Yeah, and those missed tax write-offs she mentioned.
Oh, yeah.
That really shows why we need to understand what resources are out there.
Exactly. We have to advocate for ourselves and our families.
But her story also reminds us that being financially secure isn't just about the money. It's about having choices.
Right, having the freedom to make decisions that match your values.
Like if you need to take time off to care for someone, or if you want to pursue something you're passionate about.
It all comes back to that idea of waking up, looking up.
Yeah, focusing on the positive.
Finding those moments of joy.
And remember, if you want to hear more from Antoinette, she's online.
Yeah, she's got the hashtag Delaware Blogger.
So definitely check that out if you want more inspiration. And if you enjoyed our deep dive and want to hear more conversations like this one,
Leave us a 5-star review.
yeah, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen.
We really appreciate it.
We do, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.